Remember those game-changing CPU versus CPU sliders for Madden 24 I dropped at launch? Well, you asked and I've been listening. Buckle up because I've made tweaks to these sliders over the last few months and I'm sure that it'll take your CPU versus CPU franchises to the next level. Let's dive in. And for my impatient people that don't want to hear me blabber about why I have sliders or where I have certain sliders, don't worry, I hooked you guys up. I have timestamps for the unblurred version of all these sliders, so you could just click that and actually just see the unblurred sliders without actually hearing me talk about any of this and unblur it slowly. All I ask in return is to please leave a like on this video if you like the sliders or use the sliders, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button because I post a lot of Madden content and it helps push this video and this channel to more people who like this certain content. So like I said, if you don't want to hear me blabber, click that timestamp and just see the unblurred version. But for the people that actually want to see why I have sliders, where I have certain sliders, and to gain a better understanding, I'm gonna dive in with the CPU skill. So I'm not gonna go into the player skill because like I say in every slider video, player skill doesn't matter because you're literally just going to be watching these. You're not going to be playing these. This is CPU versus CPU sliders, so you're not going to be playing these. Like, these sliders are probably not going to be good if you actually played. You are literally just watching the game. So starting off with quarterback accuracy, we have quarterback accuracy at 40, pass blocking at 65, wide receiver catching at 61, and run blocking at 55. I'm going to go over those. Quarterback accuracy we have at 40, just because I realized that like quarterbacks, once they got too good, they were kind of completing too many passes, and it was like, okay, let's actually tune that down just a little bit. Pass blocking we have at 65. I like what I said, just because I realized that like the O-line kind of definitely needed a little buff, because we definitely don't want like regular like right ends and left ends and pass rushers to be getting like 4, 5, 6 sacks a game. Wide receiver catching 61. I haven't changed that since the beginning of this year because I like what I said. Wide receivers still actually drop passes, but the reason why I have it at 61 is because I realized that at the beginning of the year, for some reason, even really good wide receivers were actually dropping passes, and I didn't understand why. So I was like, all right, let me just raise this up just a little bit, and it actually kind of helped. And now they don't actually drop as many passes. They drop realistic passes where like if they're covered, or like again, sometimes wide receivers just drop passes. So I've been liking what that's at. In run blocking, I have it 55. I actually tuned that down a little bit just because I realized that this year is not last year. Last year run blocking needed to be pretty high because the run wasn't as dominant, wasn't as good because of how they built the game. But this year they actually built it based off of running, in my opinion. Like, it's super easy to run, like run blocking is just naturally better. So it's actually been helpful turning it down, because like now halfbacks aren't busting 150 yard games, you feel me, like every single game. Like, it takes a minute, or you have to be a really good halfback. I may eventually change that down just a little bit more, but I've been liking where it's at so far. It's been kind of realistic. Like, halfbacks have their good games, and then also halfbacks have their bad games. Ball security, pass defense reaction time, and interceptions, I'm going to go over that. I have ball security at 60, pass defense reaction time at 55, and interceptions at 40. I have ball security up at 60. I actually raised this up a little bit, and I actually raised this up because like Anthony Richardson is now like a 95 overall. It took like 3-4 years to actually develop him, but 95 overall, doesn't have that many interceptions, but his turnovers were like 15, 16 fumbles. That's kind of unrealistic in my opinion. And I realized that like if you are getting tackled and didn't like go straight down, or like you just stayed up longer than you should have, it would almost always result in a fumble. So I put ball security up a little bit, and I've been liking where it's at. I'm gonna try a season with this. Hopefully it's actually better now than what it was before. That's the reason why I have that at that. Pass defense reaction time 55, I haven't changed that. Interceptions at 4, but again, I like it where it's at because there's not a lot of interceptions, but when they happen, I was like, okay, that could happen IRL. Pass coverage I have at 70, and tackling 60. Tackling I have at 60 because I don't want there to be too many broken tackles. And pass coverage I have at 70 because I just realized that the pass coverage needed to be a little bit tighter. I feel like the separation was a little bit too much too, and all you really need in this game is a little bit of speed and a little bit of separation, and you're gone if you get the ball out and actually to the wide receiver in time. So I put pass coverage up just a little bit because I wanted to be better pass coverage. Moving on into the special teams: field goal power, field goal accuracy, punt power, punt accuracy, and kickoff power. We have 84, 82 for field goal power and field goal accuracy. If you guys didn't come from my first video, you're probably looking at these numbers like, what the fuck are you doing, bro, with these numbers this high? The reason why I have these numbers this high is literally just because I realized that for some reason in this game, literally CPU kickers don't use the full arc. If you play this game and you kick a field goal, you can actually move your left joystick back to actually get a better arc, so you can actually make longer distance field goals realistically. For some reason, CPU doesn't do that. They just use their base arc and their base power. I had to raise it because like there would be really good kickers with high kick power and high accuracy, either missing wide right, which is why we changed the accuracy, and then being short, which is why we changed the power. Actually lowered punt power and punt accuracy, so I have that at 40 and 45. The reason is because I realized that like for some reason there's a lot of touchbacks when it comes to punts in this game. For some reason, like it doesn't bounce back anymore like it used to in previous Maddens. In reality, the punter wants to actually pin that opposing offense within the 10, within the 5, something where it's going to cause a long drive and cause that opposing offense to have that sustainable drive. Kickoff power I have at 58 just because I want more touchbacks. Like in real life, there's times when there's a lot of special teams players like actually taking the ball out, but a lot of times you'll see that they don't typically take the ball out. Like a lot of times, literally they just actually, it's like, hey, fair catch, so let me get the ball to 25. Moving on to game options and penalties. So injuries we have at 15, fatigue at 60, and minimum player speed threshold at 40. Injuries I have at 15, and I've been liking this at 15. Honestly, like a lot of people say, hey, is that too high? Hey, is that too low? Honestly, no. Like a lot of people in my first video I think were really worried about, is the offensive line gonna get injured? Because in previous Maddens, I know that offensive line stayed on the injury report, but this year I think they fixed that because like besides every other game or so, like I don't have too many like offensive linemen just straight up getting injured, but I have realistic injuries. So like I get players that's injured. I get, sometimes my quarterback is injured. Like I have a running quarterback. I have Anthony Richardson. Sometimes he gets injured. Sometimes it's 4 games. Sometimes it's for a quarter or something. Like luckily, knock on wood, he hasn't had any like season long injury or like multiple week long injury because he's actually doing good now. I've had realistic injuries and I haven't had too many people on the injury report at the same time, luckily. But I love what that's at. Fatigue at 60 and minimum player speed threshold at 40. What minimum player speed threshold actually is, guys, it's disparity between the fastest player and the slowest player, or like the speeds between the wide receiver and the DB, or like, you know, the offense and the defensive player. So I've been playing with that. I like where it's at the moment, but don't be surprised if in version 3 that's changed. Moving on into the penalties. Offsides we have at 80, false start we have at 80, holding 95, face mask 50, defensive pass interference 65. Again, don't be surprised if in version 3 I actually kind of lower that, just because literally, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, like that has actually been getting called more this year than it has in previous years, especially on Hail Mary attempts, because everybody's just clustered together. There's been times I've almost lost games because they did a long Hail Mary and literally got a lucky PI. Might turn that down a little bit, but for the moment I like it. It adds something new into the game. Offensive pass interference on, kick catch interference on, illegal blocking the back 75. That really doesn't get called either. Intentional grounding on roughing the passer at 46. Roughing the kicker and running into the kicker I actually turned off, guys, and this is because I don't know why. There's something in this game where like if it's a bad punt or like a bad snap, it slows down and then it allows your defensive players to jump and actually get a jump on that to get a block. However, you never get the block. You always run into the kicker, and that happened like 3 times in one game on one drive for me, and it allowed them to get like 45 penalty yards. Turn that off. That's unrealistic. It's gonna make your life a whole lot less stressful. But that's pretty much all of the sliders, guys. If this video helped, don't forget to leave a like. Helps this video, helps this channel, helps get this channel pushed out to more people so we can continue to grow. If you guys have any questions or if you have any suggestions on certain sliders, let me know down in the comment section. I respond to every comment and I read every comment because I love you guys, but I like a lot of community that we're building. This has been your boy, Formula Cosmos. I'm out. Peace.
Sub to Cosmos, best YouTuber in the world. Sub to Cosmos, best YouTuber in the world. Yeah, great content back to back. Bitch dropping like flapjacks. Like, comment, need feedback. 1K subs, appreciate that. For a moolah, stay on track. Keep on shining my stars. I love you to the moon and back.